Hi, today is August the 16th, 2025, and I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about some books that I've read recently, all by the same author, Walter Moers. Now, last November, I read a book called Rumo and His Miraculous Adventure. Rumo and His Miraculous Adventures. And I enjoyed it very much. I actually made a video about it. And then about a month ago, I read it again for a second time and enjoyed it just as much the second time, if not more. So that book pretty much went on my favorite books list. And then I was like, I want to read more by this author. Unfortunately, the library did not have real books by that author. Other than that, they did offer digital material copies of it, ebooks, which I was trying to avoid doing that, but finally I gave in. I had to make an account and download an app and rent the books, which is, reading an ebook is a far inferior experience to reading a real book. It's much more natural, much more pleasant to have a real book in your hand and be turning real pages and be looking at real ink on real paper and having natural light just reflecting off of those pages rather than just staring at a screen and having that light beam right into your eyes and frying your brain and just tapping the screen to get to the next page. It's a really horrible way to read a book, but it was my only option. So it's 3 books that I read as ebooks. What I didn't know until recently was that Rumo is actually the 3rd book in the Zemonian series. All these books take place in the fictional world of Zemonia. Rumo was the 3rd book, so I read books 1, 4, and 5. Okay, so the first one that I read that I'm going to talk about is The 13 and a Half Lives of Captain Blue Bear, the first book in the Zemonian series. And The 13 and a Half Lives of Captain Blue Bear is about a blue bear who is called Blue Bear and his series of adventures, basically, a series of experiences. The lives spoken of in the title is just simply different chapters in his life. It's not like he dies and comes back and has another life. It's just different chapters in his life. And it's very episodic. It doesn't have the feeling of a novel, of a cohesive novel. It's just basically functions as a series of short stories that are sequential, but still kind of their own thing in a way. And it's like all of these books are very imaginative, very creative, and that's the strength of all of them, really. But Captain Blue Bear, of the 4 that I've read by Walter Moers, is my least favorite. I didn't particularly. It's written in the first person. Rumo was written in the third person, and of course, anything written in the first person is limited relative to to a third person narrative, because you can only know so much. You can only know as much as the main character knows. And it's always in the voice of that character and from the perspective of that character, and so it's more limited than the third person kind of God voice. And the character of Blue Bear was the character I didn't particularly like. I didn't find that attractive a character, and the adventures he goes through were kind of hit and miss as far as being really engaging for me, being interesting. So yeah, there's that one. I guess to keep this short and sweet. It's like I said, still very imaginative. Some things that are mentioned earlier on do kind of come up at the kind of climax of the book. It does have sort of a climax. But still, for the most part, it felt very just episodic, um, and series of short stories type thing. Then the next one I read, the fourth book in the Zimonian series. And by the way, Captain Blue Bear was interesting in that it accidentally takes place over a long period of time, because there's something that happens early on in the story that had to happen before the events of Rumo began. And then there's something later on that has to happen after the events of Rumo. So I'm like, oh wow, this is covering some space and time here. Anyway, the next book I read, the fourth book in the Zimonian series, was The City of Dreaming Books. And this is very much a bibliophile type of world, and escapism. It's very much about books, very much about literature, very much about the written word. It has this character, this dinosaur, who comes from what was it, Lindworm Castle? It's a castle, or really a kind of a mountain, where a bunch of very literate dinosaurs live. And this this kind of adolescent dinosaur leaves after his authorial godfather dies. He leaves Lindworm Castle and goes to Bookholm, the city of Bookholm, which is all about books, all about, just a bunch of people selling books, reading books, and writing books, and all kinds of stuff. And he's going there partly just as an adventure, just to get away from where he grew up, partly to kind of pursue his own, dream of writing, even though he hasn't actually written anything yet. But mainly he's going there to search for a particular author. An author had sent his authorial grandfather a manuscript, which was the best thing they'd ever read. So he's looking for this particular author, and and winds up, without giving too much away here, he winds up in the bowels of Bookholm. Now, most of Bookholm exists under the surface. It actually kind of started under the surface, and then the tip of the iceberg basically is above the surface. But there's a whole lot under the surface, and he winds up under there, and having a series of adventures under there. And for the first half of the book, I was really enjoying it. The the kind of commentary on books, on writing, the wordplay, the anagrams. There's a lot of anagrams in this thing, a lot. And so if you're a bibliophile who loves anagrams, then you can have some fun with this. And again, it's very imaginative. A lot of different creatures in this thing. But then around like 3/4 of the way through, I started feeling like it was getting bogged down. Like it wasn't really going anywhere. Like it had kind of just done what it was going to do, and it was just kind of sitting there. Now, eventually it did get going again, but when it did get going, it didn't, to me, go that far. And the ending, the climax, felt a bit disappointing, a bit underwhelming. It kind of left me with the feeling of, that's it? Really? That's it? Okay. So it's a mixed bag. There's stuff in there that I really liked. It does have definitely more a feel of a novel than Captain Blue Bear. But the story just doesn't, at a certain point, it just ceases to flow. And the idea, the literary playfulness starts getting a little bit old hat, and just isn't working as well. So yeah, part of it I really liked, and part of it I was like, okay. So that's the City of Dreaming books. And the third and most recent one I read was The Alchemist's Apprentice. And this is about, and by the way, the City of Dreaming books was again written in the first person. Okay. So Captain Blue Bear, first person. City of Dreaming books, first person. Rumo, third person. And The Alchemist's Apprentice, also third person. And it's about a krat, which is a cat. It's a cat that is able to speak and speak literally any language. It just is born with that gift. It has the gift of being able to speak any language. It also has 2 livers. That doesn't really come into play in the story, but it happens to have 2 livers. Okay. I don't think it comes, or did it come into play at one point? I don't recall. Anyway, so this krat is in this town, which is a really sickly town. Everyone in the town is sick. And what was it called? Can't remember the name of the town now. I just finished this book, but can't remember things. And its master's died. The lady who took care of it has died, and it's destitute. It's on the street, just starving to death. It's literally just starving to death. And this alchemist, who happens to be the master of this, the ruler basically of this sick town, and is not a good guy, pretty evil guy actually. He sees this krat and is like, "Hey, I'll make you a deal. I will feed you the just huge amounts of the best food ever for 1 month, and at the end of that month, on the occasion of the next full moon, then I will kill you and render down your fat." Because he wants the krat. The krat fat is like the last major ingredient, or the secret ingredient, or whatever he needs to create his ultimate thing that he's trying to do as an evil alchemist. And the deal is made. The contract is signed, literally. There's a contract written up and signed. And so the krat goes and lives in this huge castle where the alchemist lives. And this castle seems to be limitless. I mean, there's always new rooms in this thing. And, it's living there. It's eating really good. But again, of course, in the back of its head, it's always like, okay, I've got so long to live. I've got so long to live. And and you're wondering, okay, how is he going to work this out? Is this krat gonna die? What's he gonna try to figure out before the time comes? What's he gonna do when the time comes? And so this, of the 3 I just read, definitely has the best novel, or the best organization in terms of being a novel, and feeling like a novel, and feeling like a whole story. Because at this it's set up right at the beginning. Okay, here are the stakes. Okay, this is what this character wants to do. This is what what's going to happen to this character. But that character doesn't really want to happen to that character, but he made the deal. What's going to happen? So the terms are all set up. The stakes are set up. And so it's just a matter of how this is all going to develop. And I definitely enjoyed this book the most of the 3. And so much so that when it came to the last page and I saw the end there, I was like, oh, really? I want another chapter. I want more of this. That's a good sign when you're at the end of the story and you just want more. Not because you felt that it was underwhelming, disappointing, like it was, it didn't deliver, but because you're enjoying it so much that you just want it to keep going. And again, very imaginative, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of different characters. Well, actually not a lot of different characters, but several characters. Although I do have one slight complaint here, and that is that there's a number of Deus Ex Machina moments in a way. Those moments where something bad is just about to happen, and at the last second, something else happens that prevents that bad thing from happening at the moment, type thing. It's just this last second save. Um, you can do that once or twice in a story and get away with it and have it be effective, but this doesn't more than that. There's several times that happens, and I was just kind of like, really, another one? But everything else is working so darn well that it still works. It's still, even though I did notice it and I was like, another one of these, it didn't get in the way of my enjoying it nonetheless. It was still fun. It's a kind of a cool. It's almost kind of a haunted house type or haunted tower type story, almost. I mean, the tower has a lot of weird stuff in there, or the castle. The castle has a bunch of weird stuff in there. So it's kind of, and of course, alchemy, magic. You got what's called an ugly in there, which is a certain type of creature that I met first in Rumo, but they tell fortunes and they practice certain natural magic. But so it's probably kind of a cool book to read around the Halloween time of year, but also any time of year since I just read it and enjoyed it. So yeah, there's that. 13 and a Half Lives of Captain Blue Bear, mixed bag cereal type thing. What was the other one? The City of Dreaming Books. Fun, but doesn't stick the landing type thing. And then The Alchemist's Apprentice, which I enjoyed through and through. And I want to go on now and read another book by Walter Moers, but the second book in the Zomorian series has not been translated into English, so that's not available to me. And also, if I were any other book I would read by him would be an ebook again. And I'm tired of reading ebooks for right now. I think I need to take a break from that. So I'll come back later and check out some more Walter Moers stuff. But anyway, that's that. Thanks for listening. Bye.